What's up, everybody? We're back with NFL Week 11, speaking to each and every game, line, and pick this week. Let's jump right into it. But as always, please don't forget to like the channel if you're enjoying the content. Subscribe to it, the channel that is, if you're enjoying it and want to keep getting this NFL content week in and week out. And then let me know in the comment section who you're taking this week, if you disagree, and if you agree with any of the picks I got going. Thursday night football, we got the roaring hot Patriots. I think six straight wins right now, as a 10.5 point favorite against the Jets, who are coming off two straight wins against the Bengals and then most recently the Browns. So they're taking on the Ohio teams. But clearly, you see a big mismatch with these teams, with the Patriots being favored by double digits here. To no surprise with the way that offense under Drake May has been playing. And then of this last week, which was really needed in the win over the playoff contenders, the Buccaneers, or really, division and conference contenders, Buccaneers. You saw a big life from the running game, which I had been dogging week in and week out in a breakout game from Travion Henderson, their second round rookie running back out of Ohio State. So right now, this offense is firing on all cylinders. From the veteran free agent they signed, Stephon Diggs. Again, I mentioned the young guys in Henderson and May. This offense is just clicking, and you simply cannot say anything close to that about the Jets. The only reason they were able to win this last game was the fact that their special teams put up 14 points for them, of their total of 27 in the win against the Browns. Justin Fields is just unable to create and generate any offense with his arm in the passing game. Garrett Wilson going down, aggravating that knee again, doesn't help the passing offense, but there's really nowhere to go for this football. And if there was, I'm not even sure Justin Fields could get to them anyways. So this Jets offense is really reliant on the legs of Breece Hall and Justin Fields, and that's just not going to be enough to beat a dynamic team like this Patriots unit. I mentioned the offense, but this defense has been playing well, as expected, under a Mike Vrabel-led team. Nothing really to shine upon. Pretty solid and average for this defense, which is a huge step up last year. And it goes to show that all the money they invested in free agency on the defense side of the football is paying off as well. So big leaps for both the offense and the defense for the Patriots this year. I think as of right now, sitting at 8 wins, they've matched their win total over the last 2 years combined. Against a team like the Jets, whose defense nor offense is playing well, I'd expect the Patriots to blow them out here. I think everyone does, so maybe be a little bit careful about betting the Patriots, but it's hard to see that anything different would happen. I think the Jets' last 2 wins were basically flukes against poor teams from Ohio. I don't expect it to happen again. I'm going to take the Patriots to win big here, to the tune of 27-13. So not necessarily the highest scoring game, because I don't believe in the Jets offense too much. But I do believe that the Patriots win here and win big. We got a high scoring affair, or what could be the makes of one, in Miami, as the Dolphins, coming off a surprising blowout win against the Bills, take on the Commanders, who got trounced, quite frankly, against the Lions, which I think I saw coming with the revenge game from the playoffs here. That came without their star quarterback, Jaden Daniels, who's been injured for the last few weeks. It'll be interesting to see if he's able to make it this game. I would guess by the spread means he will not be. Because I'm personally not a big believer in this Dolphins team, despite some of the recent successes they've had. But you can't deny what this offense has been doing the last few weeks for the Dolphins. You've seen a ton of Devon Achane at running back. You've seen guys like Parker Washington get in the mix for this team here. And sorry, that's the Jaguars player. Apologies. You're seeing just Jalen Waddle really step up here, especially in the absence of Tyreek Hill. But I think the Dolphins are one of the shakiest offenses in football. But right now, with Jaden Daniels out with the Commanders, they don't have much to talk about either in the run game. With Pekrosky Merritt at running back has not really been flourishing the way people expected this rookie to take off. You don't see a lot of Terry McLaurin anymore this year, and this is an aging defensive unit with guys like Bobby Wagner and other older players kind of leading the charge, which is the reason why you see the Commanders' defense rank fifth in the bottom 5 in the league this season. So without a solid offense and go-to options there with a reliable quarterback and without a defense, hard to see the Commanders winning this game. So I like the Dolphins to continue to build on the momentum that they had at home last week against the Bills, to take that one step forward here and beat the Commanders. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, given the fact that I don't think this Dolphins defense ranks much further behind this Commanders one. But I do believe in the offense, the quarterback, and the skill position players on the Dolphins side much more than I do the Commanders side. Again, if Jaden Daniels is not playing, I'm going to take the Dolphins to win here in a high-scoring affair. Dolphins 28 to the Commanders 24, with some, again, two poor defenses going at each other. Divisional opponents here in a rematch of a really ugly game the last time it was played in Carolina. I think if you guys all recall, I think the Panthers won 30-0, shutting out the Falcons when they played them. A little bit different story here as the Falcons come in after a really hard-fought game against the Colts across the pond. It'd be a tough travel for them coming back here, but they find themselves at 3.5-point favorites against their divisional rival, looking to get some revenge. I think anecdotally, what I see and have seen this year, I think divisional teams take it very personally, losing against their divisional counterparts twice and getting swept in the season. And just given that alone, some of the results that I've seen, I already lean the Falcons. But I think you could argue that they should have won that game, if not for just a little bit less of the Jonathan Taylor magic. I think what you're not seeing is a prolific production from Bijan Robinson, but you certainly are with Drake London. If those two can get going at the same time, this is a really tough offense to slow down. You don't have a tremendous defensive unit with the Panthers here coming in just below average, with one of the worst pass rush in the league. So think about Michael Penix getting a lot of time to get the ball to obviously Drake London. Kyle Pitts still there, but I would imagine Robinson plays a bigger role in the passing game this game. For the Panthers, it's really the Rico Dowdle show, and the team kind of has been coming and going with him. They're coming off against the loss against the Saints, which I kind of saw coming and was on the Saints spread, but didn't have the guts to take them money line on the road. But you didn't get a ton of offensive production that you're used to seeing from this team. Ted McMillan at wide receiver still hasn't really come into his own yet. Could happen any day, but it still has not. And because of these offensive woes, and because I think, again, that the Falcons outflank the Panthers here in another matchup where the home team has greater offensive weapons, I'm going to take the Falcons to win here. And I think I'm taking them to cover too. I think a lot of people are going to use the recency bias of the Panthers beating these guys up a few weeks back, a couple months back, and that 30-0 game that I mentioned. Don't think you're going to see that story, and I think you're going to see the Falcons come out after a really tough loss, come out here looking for a win at home against trying to avoid a sweep against the divisional opponent. Both the qualitative and the quantitative factors from here pointing Falcons here. I'm going to take them to win and to cover, winning this game 26-22. Here's a real fun game. But again, a couple playoff teams. Bucks at 6-3, Bills at 6-3 after a surprising loss against the Dolphins. They find themselves traveling back to Buffalo, where they are 5.5-point favorites against the Buccaneers, coming off a loss of their own against a Patriots team. This time the Bucs have to play on the road against a divisional opponent from the AFC East, and it's not going to be that much easier than the best record in the league, Patriots. You got the Bills here, who you've seen Josh Allen struggling his last few games, and I think people are starting to wonder if he's enough on his own to carry this team when you're not getting a guy like James Cook dominate in the running game. Really, the passing options and them being down one with Dalton Kincaid's injury are growing thin there in Buffalo. But you need to see Keon Coleman, who scored a touchdown, albeit garbage time at that point in the game, and Khalil Shakir really step up for this Bills passing attack if they're going to want to compete with the passing attack that the Buccaneers have, with Ibuka as a rookie at wide receiver really carrying the load for this team, and even Tess Johnson helping out as well. There's a reason, though, the Bills are favored at 5.5 points here. I think, one, people believe this team will bounce back and continue to claw and really get wins where they needed, being 2 games back in the division and already have lost the tiebreaker, or have lost one game and are at risk of losing the tiebreaker against the Patriots here. Seeing a lot of high scoring as you'd expect with both these defenses, being on the cushier side. But I think, being more of a must-win game for the Bills is really tipping the scales here. If you think about the NFC South records that the Buccaneers are butting up against, um, outside of the Bucks are 6-3. Next closest you're going to get are the Panthers at 5-5, and I don't really think anyone believes them to be a legitimate threat for that divisional title. The Falcons at 3-6, and the Saints at 2-8. So a little bit more of a comfortable lead, sitting 2 games, or I guess a game and a half up on the Panthers versus the Bills being 2 games back and already having lost one against the Patriots. So definitely thinking the Bills win here. Definitely agreeing with the high scoring game. The big question for me is, do they cover here? I have a hard time seeing it happen with the way they've been playing, but I do try to steer away from the recency bias here. I think you're going to see a really great performance from Josh Allen as he needs to bounce back and get a win, and show what it's all about. And I think you're going to see some improvements from the wide receiving core here too, as the guys that I mentioned really need to step up. Particularly, I think it's going to be Keon Coleman here, that helps push his Bills passing attack to victory here against a Buccaneers team that's been letting up points at a pretty high clip. I think this Buccaneers defense, though, as much as I'm talking about the Bills, this Buccaneers defense is better than advertised, albeit letting up a decent amount of points recently. But I'm not, I'm actually a little bit surprised at how well they've been playing as a whole, taking the last few games aside. Because of that, again, I think it's must-win territory for the Bills. But I like the Bucks to cover here in a shootout, high-scoring game. I like Bucks to cover 5.5 with Bills to win outright. Buffalo 31, Tampa Bay 28. Chargers coming off a nice win on Sunday Night Football against the Steelers, with the Jaguars at home as 3-point underdogs after their tough loss, and a lot closer than the score indicated in their game against the divisional rival Texans. I think both these teams are leaning on their defenses as of late, as the offensive firepower hasn't been going. I would say that leans much more towards the Chargers. Jaguars leaned a lot on their defense at the beginning of the season, but they did just let up 30 points to this Texans team that hasn't had a lot of offense going until recently in the last few weeks. It's more of a question to me of what's going to happen with this Chargers offense. Is that game against the Steelers more of a fluke, and is like that 25-point output kind of their standard, or were they just going up against a really strong defense for the Steelers? And I tend to think more of the former, as much as I've been talking about the Steelers defense. What they've done really well is rush the passer and get to the quarterback. But when the teams are able to stop their pass rush, their secondary is more than forgiving for the Steelers. And I think when you saw the Chargers have success last week, it's because of the passing attack that Justin Herbert was able to achieve. On the flip side, this team in the offense keeps getting mired by injuries now, with Gadsden, their rookie tight end, that really started to emerge, going down with a knee injury. He won't be looking to play, so they're going to need Quinn Johnston, their other big target, albeit he's a wide receiver, to step up here and take some of those red zone, throw it up looks that Gadsden has been getting. But outside of those aforementioned players, Keenan Allen and Landon McConkey, especially the latter, stepped up big time at the wide receiver position last game. So no qualms between those players, and they're going to need to outlast this Jaguars passing attack that seems to have picked up lately, not because of their former star, if not still current star, Brian Thomas Jr. at wide receiver, but because of guys like Parker Washington, who I mentioned, Jacoby Myers getting in the mix after being traded for, and just really Trevor Lawrence getting more and more comfortable within the offense. And you're seeing Travis Etienne start to pick it up as well at running back. That being said, I think if the Jaguars are going to want to win this game, they're going to need to see some of Brian Thomas Jr., who has been really not too big of a key piece of this offense under the new system with Liam Cohen as the rookie head coach there. I'm much more a believer in Justin Herbert's ability to win close games than I am the Jaguars, although I think if I remember this game a few years back, I think the Chargers ended up blowing a huge lead to the Jaguars way back in the day, where they had like a 20-plus point lead and ended up blowing that one. But I think you're going to see a different score here, and I'm taking the Chargers here. And I think it's going to be a lower scoring game than people think because, again, this offensive line for the Chargers has been a little bit depleted too. But I think they continue to do the formula that led them to success against the Steelers and lean on their defense to help them keep them in games. I think that's exactly what happens here. The Chargers win this game. I'm going to go kind of chalk here. I'm going to go Chargers 23, Jags 20. Bears take on the Vikings in Minnesota with a Week 1 rematch where the Bears had a double-digit lead in the third quarter and even into the fourth, I believe, and that ended up pissing that one away as J.J. McCarthy won NFC Offensive Player of the Week. The Bears here they're 6-1 after starting 0-2, and you get the Vikings here after a tough loss against the Ravens, who I think were destined to win given their record, and what seems to be a high-scoring affair here. I think J.J. McCarthy's getting better and better. I don't think he's been terrific, but he goes up against a really weak secondary against the Bears. And given how bad that's been playing and how prolific the guys in the Vikings offense have been, or at least can be in the passing game with Jay Jettas, Naylor, who had an incredible game last week against the Ravens, and then also Jordan Addison, I think that trio is going to play a big role in this offense, putting up a lot of points against the Bears. On the flip side, I don't think you've seen a lot of great offense for the Bears lately. They continue to win games, but they also continue to play poor teams. I don't consider the Vikings to be a terrific team, but I do think they're better than a tier above the teams the Bears have been beating. I haven't seen a ton that I've loved from Caleb Williams outside of his scrambling ability and in using his legs to pick up yards, but we can see if that changes this game. I'm not counting on it. And for that reason, I'm on the Vikings. I think it's going to be a really high-scoring game. The Vikings secondary is third worst ranked in the league here. You can see you got a guy like Rome Odunze, who's had a great connection with Caleb this year, pick it up, and even DJ Moore, who had a little bit of a disappearing act last week, getting on the mix. That being said, I think this Bears defense is really poor, especially in their secondary as well. You've seen the amount of ability that opposing quarterbacks and teams have been able to put up against them with some suitable talent. I think the Vikings have more than suitable talents. I think the Bears are due for a loss here. I like the Vikings to win and cover this game as they put up 30 points of their own and beat the Bears 30-24. Man, it just keeps getting from bad to worse for the Giants as Jackson Dart goes down last week with a concussion. That marks him. Bo Scatterbo, their rookie running back, and Malik Neighbors, their second-year wide receiver, all being down this year to injury. Luckily, they have a suitable backup in Russell Wilson, but without a lot of talent around him, it's going to be hard to put up points against this Packers defense that, as they've indicated on Monday Night Football, has been playing really well, especially against that game against the Eagles, and will stifle likely this mired Giants offensive talent and locker room here. For the Packers, we talk about so much their talent on offense, but you don't always see it translate on the field. I'll give them a little bit of slack because this Eagles defense, as predicted, would come out and play a really solid game on Monday night after the bye week and Vic Fangio with all the talent they have on defense. But you've seen a lot of inconsistencies with this Packers offense. That being said, I think they have a really great matchup here against, again, the completely decimated New York Giants offense here. Despite what the Packers are able to do offensively themselves, I really do believe that with Micah Parsons in the second overall rated defense according to PFF, and I think the best coverage unit in football right now, the Packers are just going to stymie this Giants offense. What I also predict to happen is you see a lot of Josh Jacobs as the Giants have the third worst rushing defense right now in football. I just think you get the Packers here to blow out the Giants, take advantage of it. Again, a decimated and really hurt team that wasn't already that good to begin with. Packers here are going to have to, play in the tight divisional races. The Bears aren't slowing down or haven't slowed down, but are probably due to slow down. And, the Lions are always going to be right there in the rearview mirror. So the Packers got to take advantage of this game after coming off a loss against the Eagles and get right the ship here on the road. I'd like the Packers to win this game. I'd like them to win it big. But I don't know if they're going to hit the over here because I don't think the Giants score many points. I'm going to take the Packers 21 and the Giants 10. So tough time watching the Steelers there on Sunday Night Football against the Chargers. And it really surprised me based on the way Aaron Rodgers and that offense looks that the Steelers are actually 5.5 point favorites against the Bengals, and the over of this game, or the total of this game, teetering around 49.5. I think that just shows that any offense, regardless of the output and caliber of the team that's showing up day in and day out, can really put up points against this Bengals unit. You saw the Bears' offense hasn't been really humming to perfection, put up a huge spot on them. You saw Justin Fields and the Jets, who have one of the most anemic offenses in the league, put up 30-plus points against them. I'm sure that Aaron Rodgers and the Steelers can find ways to put up 30-plus too. What's going to be the huge factor of this game, and what really tips the scales in the Steelers' favor, is their league-leading pass rusher. Actually, they're behind the Browns, but their top-tier pass rush going up against one of the worst run-blocking units and offensive lines in football for the Bengals. It's going to be really tough for Joe Burrow to keep connecting with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase the way that he has in the last few weeks, because he's not going to have any time to throw. On top of that, this running game for the Bengals has been pretty non-existent. Some of that is because they've thrown so much and have had to. Part of that is also because the offensive line is really poor at pass blocking, is even worse at run blocking. So this offensive line, no secret, nothing new, has been really the Achilles heel and the biggest overall weakness of this Bengals team. But I will say the secondary unit's giving them a run for their money, because both of those units on this Bengals team on different sides of the football are really hurting this team's chances to win with or without Joe Burrow playing quarterback. Because of all those factors, I like the Steelers to win this game. I do like them to win it big. It seems like any team can put up 30 points against this Bengals team, but I think you're going to see the offense struggle against a really elite defensive line. Again, I said when teams can get the ball off, this secondary is a little bit cushy, but I think because of the really poor pass blocking, partnered with the tremendous defensive pass rush from the Steelers, you're just not going to see that offensive production that you're used to seeing from Joe Flacco, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins. Still like it to be a high-scoring game, but I do like the Steelers to win and cover. I'm going to go Steelers 33, Bengals 27. Divisional matchup here in a low-scoring game is the surging Texans after their win against the Jaguars find themselves 8.5 point favorites against the Titans. I'm trying to remember what the score was the last time these two teams played, but remember, I really, especially at home, question the ability of a team to sweep their divisional opponent. It does happen, and it happens often, but it seems like even more often it happens that teams end up pushing, or certainly play these games with a little bit of a chip in their shoulder, trying not to get swept by their divisional rivals here. I think this is going to be one of the scenarios where the sweep does happen, as it's tough for the Titans to take on the defense this solid and put up points, even if they're coming off a bye. Last time these two teams played, the Texans defense shut out the Titans offense, limiting them to 0 points while putting up 26 of their own. You can look at that game and very easily take on the Texans here, but I'm going to go against the grain and take the Titans at home off a bye plus 8.5 in a really low-scoring game. Still not a huge believer in this Texans offense, but I like the Titans just to play this game really gritty and do everything they can to claw and try not to get swept by their division rivals here. All that being said, it's going to be really tough against this top-rated, or one of the top-rated defensive units in football, the Texans. If the Titans are going to want to make this a game, I think the Titans have to lean on their defense, as they don't have a lot of going from an offense. With very little talent around Cam Ward at quarterback, but you're seeing some shimmers of hope with some younger guys there at wide receiver, but still much to be desired from this Titans team. I think you're going to see a really low-scoring game. I think you're going to see a pretty ugly one with the Texans winning but failing to cover. I'm going to go Texans 17, Titans 10 in the divisional sweep against the Tennessee Titans here for the Texans. Going on to another divisional game, you got the Cardinals finding themselves at 2.5 point favorites against the 49ers, who played a pretty good game against a really solid Rams team, but Matt Stafford and that offensive unit was just too much for Mac Jones and that cast of characters. You may see, I've been saying it for a lot of weeks now, and so is the media, so have the 49ers. You may see Brock Purdy return this game. You might see Ricky Pearsall return to this game. You never know with these offensive injuries that the Niners are having. They're simply always 1 week away from playing. But you're seeing a team from the Cardinals that, with Jacoby Brissett, you can make an argument that offenses look better than what it has than with Kyler Murray. That being said, the defense hasn't been playing too well. The offense did let up a couple defense touchdowns against the Seahawks, who are surging themselves. But I think you're seeing some positive strides from the Trey McBride connection with Jacoby Brissett, who is typically favored tight ends, but also a little bit of Marvin Harrison Jr. at wide receiver. But other than that, this Cardinals offense has been really one-dimensional. The 49ers here obviously have great players like Christian McCaffrey on offense, but the defense, with a lot of injuries that they've been and have sustained, actually finds themselves with a bottom 5 unit here. I think it's really easy, and I think the public is going to jump all over the 49ers, but I'm actually going to go against the grain, take the Cardinals to win here because of the couple players that I mentioned in the past, because it's hard to believe the Cardinals have the relative advantage defensively against the 49ers here, and because I actually like the steps that Jacoby Brissett has been making as a quarterback with this passing unit, especially. The Niners here have a bottom 5 coverage unit. You saw Matt Stafford have a really great game, flawless, putting up 4 touchdowns. I think it's this defensive unit for the 49ers that's really going to hinder them and going to allow the Cardinals to win this game in a close shootout, because I don't think either defense is all that great, but I think the secondary unit for the 49ers is what makes and actually breaks this team this game. I'm taking the Cardinals to win this game 24-23. Rounding out the divisional games for the NFC West here, you got the Rams hosting the Seahawks, with both teams playing lights out lately. You talk about some of the great receivers in this game with Jackson Smith and Jigba here for the Seahawks, and then Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams for the Rams. You've seen a lot of great stuff from Kyren Williams at running back, while the Seahawks take more of a committee approach. Sam Darnold's been playing great football. Matt Stafford's playing MVP caliber football. Both teams have stellar defenses right now, both ranking in the top 5 in PFF grade. What the big standout for me is, I think defensively, a couple things. Defensively, the Rams do have the leg up on the Seahawks. I think having the better coverage unit, but I think the Seahawks have been more opportune in creating turnovers and creating short fields for their offense. But it's the pass rush as well for the Rams that I give the nod to over the Seahawks, with some really great young players, mainly Jared Verse there, leading that pass rush unit, along with, I think, Byron Young. The other thing offensively is, I think, the depth at wide receiver for the Rams, running back game, and the play from Kyren Williams versus what Charbonnet and Walker have been able to do for the Seahawks. I think the Seahawks are a really great football team, but I think the Rams are a step above in the lead. They've got a great run blocking unit. The pass blocking unit's been doing a good job keeping Matt Stafford upright and healthy, although it's certainly not one of the better units, but they've been playing well. And again, Matt Stafford's been navigating the system in the pocket well too. I think the Rams are a tier above the Seahawks here, and at home, I like them to win and cover. If this game was in Seattle, I might be saying something different, but I really like the Rams here, just because I think they're going to prove in this game that they're true Super Bowl contenders. And while the Seahawks are legitimately they're playoff bound right now, and they probably will be, but I think they're more pretenders when it comes to Super Bowl contention. Like the Rams, they put their little brother right now in the NFC West in place. I think they're going to win this game and really shine on the defense here to cover. I like the under here. I like the Rams to cover and win. I'm going to go with the Rams 27, Seahawks 21. Another divisional matchup here, Browns and Ravens. Browns having a really hard time offensively, even with Dylan Gabriel, and what I think the huge reason for it is their offensive line, which ranks last in the league in pass blocking. Not nearly as bad in the run blocking, but when you're giving this guy who has very little weapons already on offense to speak with Jerry Jeudy being very hit or miss at wide receiver, Fannin Jr. really becoming the de facto number 1 target here. Without a pass blocking ability and a really young quarterback in Gabriel in his rookie season, it's hard for this Browns team, who already is really trying to lean on rookie Quinshon Judkins. It's hard for this offense to get going, even against a weaker Ravens defense, at least in the first half of this season. The Ravens, they continue to find themselves, as I think they do basically every game, until they get back to leading this division in a must-win game scenario, sitting at 4-5. And this offense with Lamar Jackson coming back is really starting to churn. They don't have an easy task against this Browns team and defense that ranks first in the league in most every category and every rating. But again, I think the real factor here is the Browns' inability to put up points this game. Hard for me to love the 8.5 here, given how stifling this Browns defense has been. But I'm going to take the Ravens here because I think this defense is starting to pick up steam and play to the caliber that they're capable of, or at least close to it, with all the talent they have on that side of the football. And then they're simply going to get enough opportunities, I believe, here against a Browns defense to put up enough points. I was on the Ravens spread last week. They continue to shine even on the road in must-win games as they have their back against the wall, sitting here at 4-5. I'm going to go the same strategy here and take the Ravens to win in a low-scoring game here. Winning this one, it's going to be a low-scoring game. I'm going to go, it's really hard for me to see the Ravens win here, but I guess it has to be something like 23-13 because I don't think the Browns put up much more than 13, but I have a hard time seeing the Ravens putting up more than 23. I think they're going to teeter around the 21-23 total, and that cover is going to go down to the wire. This slate is full of divisional games with the Chiefs, who I think find themselves behind the Chargers in the division right now, or sorry, the Broncos in the division. In Denver, find themselves at 3.5-point favorites. Broncos at 8-2, taking on the 5-4 Chiefs. You talk about must-win games for the Ravens. I think this one's a must-win game for the Chiefs, and the spread certainly indicates that as they take on the Broncos, who will be without all-world cornerback Pat Surtain, which is going to be a huge deal and have huge implications in this game. The thing I really want to highlight is the Broncos' offense as of late, especially outside of the fourth quarter, has been very atrocious. Has not had too much going on with either the run game with R.J. Harvey or in the passing game with guys like Courtland Sutton, obviously Bo Nix distributing that football. It has been a disappearing act in the first three quarters, and they're going to need to play better football if they're going to want to beat the Chiefs here. It's going to take all four quarters. They're going to want to beat them, especially if they're down arguably the best player on defense in the NFL in Pat Surtain. I guess it's not even arguable. They gave him that award last year as the best defensive player in the NFL. I think it comes as a great matchup for the Chiefs with or without Pat Surtain, but certainly without him, I think will lead me to take them winning this game and covering. I think this Broncos offense is just really not going right now, and against the second best coverage unit of football and the seventh best overall defense in football, I think you're going to see the Chiefs stymie this already struggling Broncos offense, continue to build momentum as they start to get healthier and healthier and just more integrated with their wide receivers in this offense. The big downfall for the Chiefs is their run game or lack thereof, with Pat Mahomes really needing to pick up stuff with his legs to get this offense moving in the run game. But again, with Pat Surtain out and guys like Hollywood Brown, Thornton, deep wide receiver threat, Xavier Worthy, and Travis Kelce, I think that's enough to beat the Broncos and cover in this, I think, a lower scoring game. I don't think the Broncos crack 20 points here, and I think the Chiefs win and cover, taking this one 24-17. Be an intriguing game here is the Eagles at home after their Monday Night Football game take on the Lions here. As the Lions coming off a big win against the Commanders there against their backup quarterback. A little bit surprised to find this game as a 1.5-point favorite for the Eagles because while I really do like what they're doing defensively, the offense, the passing game, the running game with Saquon Barkley continues to struggle, and offense is not something that the Lions are lacking in any department there with Jared Goff, Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and the rest of the bunch here. I'm surprised to see this total this big, but I guess it's going to have to be if you think the Eagles are going to win this game, because don't expect the Lions to score any less than 24 points a game. And I guess that's basically what they're benchmarking them at if they think that this is the over with the Eagles winning by 1 to 2 points. I like the Lions here to win this game and establish themselves at least as a more of a front runner in this NFC conference than the Eagles. I don't think you're seeing the explosivity from Saquon Barkley. I know you're not seeing the explosivity from Saquon Barkley at running back. You're not getting the passing game going with Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith. And I think a big reason for both of that is the offensive line play and the injuries that this Eagles team has sustained. Normally, this Philadelphia offensive line unit is top tier in the league, and I think they still have the talent there when healthy, which unfortunately is not the case for this team. Is Cam Jurgens at center not been playing? I saw Lane Johnson, the all-world left tackle or all-world tackle, head out in that Packers game. As these guys continue to go down, this offense really takes a step back because that offensive line unit is really the motor that gets this team going. Lions offense really looking unstoppable with Jahmyr Gibbs, who is just lightning quick out of the backfield. Between that and Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's as reliable as they come at the wide receiver position, I like the Lions to win this game. Obviously, covering then with a sneaky good defensive unit here that has shined when they've needed to. People don't give the Lions defense enough credit. They're garnering the fourth highest grade in PFF right now, highlighted by a really solid pass rush and Aiden Hutchinson. I like the Lions this game. I think they're the better overall team than the Eagles. I think they're not getting that respect because they haven't achieved the levels they have in past seasons, but I think this is going to be a little bit of a change in the guards officially with the Lions, who had a great record last year but couldn't do it in the playoffs. I think they kind of surpassed the Eagles here and win this game on the road on the backs of, solid offensive play and great running, but I think just an all-around good team win with both the offense and defense doing what they need to do. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, or at least lower than 49.5. I like the Lions to win this one in a really tight one. I'm going to go 24-23 Lions. Final game here, as a game that's probably less than to be desired on Monday Night Football here with the Cowboys against the Raiders, two teams that have flashed at times this season, and they've also really faltered at times this season. But you're looking at two of the bottom three defensive units in football right now. As you can see, that total at 55.5 would indicate, or 50.5 would indicate that both teams really surrendering points at will to their opponents. And so it's going to be a bend, don't break thing here. Really, it's going to be a question of whose offense can outshine this game against two poor defensive units, or conversely, what defense can force a turnover and a mistake from the other team. I think all signs lead to the Cowboys being the answer for either one of those questions. With Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Jake Ferguson, Javonte Williams on the offense, been playing well this year. Defensively, they got guys like Bland that can force turnovers at cornerback, and you've seen Geno Smith and this Raiders offense being more than willing to commit their fair share of turnovers. For this Raiders team, after trading Jacoby Myers at wide receiver, they were really left in the passing game with Brock Bowers as their only option. I don't think the Cowboys are necessarily equipped to stop him, but I think they can slow him down enough where they're just not going to be able to have enough offensive output to outlast Dak in this Cowboys offense here. You should see a big game from Brock Bowers because really they're going to need him to keep up with this Cowboys team, but I don't think it's going to be enough to, again, hold off this Cowboys offense. I think you're going to see a really high-scoring game here. Should see both teams in the 30-point affairs, especially if Brock Bowers does get going against this really weak secondary for the Cowboys. It's just like the Bengals, it seems like every team's able to put up 30-plus points against this Cowboys defense. So I'm going to have to take the Cowboys to put up 40 this game and win this one 40-33 against the Raiders on the road in a real high-scoring, fun affair on Monday Night Football. And that's the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys found some value, maybe learned something, and I hope you guys tune in again next week for Week 12.